Hello everyone, this is Dran001 and welcome back to STRAT CHAT. We are currently right now doing this as a live stream, so STRAT CHAT is live at the moment. If you're watching on Twitch, welcome, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, also welcome, thank you. Some stuff real quick. I do this STRAT CHAT every week live streamed at 3:30, and I end up posting them on YouTube the next day. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to get these earlier, you can look at my Twitch account, twitch.tv/Dryden001. VOD should all have it played, and then everything else. And then if you want to see these basically after the fact, they are all on a playlist on YouTube with the same name, Dryden001. So pretty good there. And then also, if you basically, my rundown is I do things on live streams every so often, but the only time I actually post them on YouTube is if it's a VOD review or if it's STRAT Chat. But any other fun we have, I just don't post it. So if you are on YouTube and you're wanting to see more content, then of course live streaming is good and looking into that. And then of course vice versa. I know I post more things on YouTube than I do on Twitch. I do meme stuff and coaching. I post that. I don't live stream those. But yeah, and then also if you have any suggestions or any questions for me during the live stream, just feel free to put them into the comment section below. If you're on YouTube, and I'll answer them at a later date, but it would be a lot sooner. It's kind of weird how time works with YouTube. And then if you're on stream, I'll answer them pretty much immediately. So that's the perks of watching this on stream, is you can ask me questions, and of course I can answer them pretty quick and cheesy. But of course, if you want all this information together, I do post a lot of my stuff on my Twitter account, and I'm going to be posting a lot more on it. I have been posting a lot more on it. Also updates and stuff like that, and so it's basically it's Dryden001, but instead of an E, it's a 3. So basically DRYD3N001. That's my Twitter handle, and you can get all information. I did have a Facebook, but I don't want to keep up two, and it's just a lot better if I have the one. Makes things a lot easier. Well, okay then, so without further ado, if you have any questions during the live stream, go ahead and ask them, and I can answer them when I have time and room and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. This is basically a list of little known facts in Overwatch, and basically everything around that. So strategies that not a lot of people know, some things that people might know but are just very obscure that there's a good chance that people don't know. So we're going to be digging really deep here. I have a short list, but the problem is the list is very intricate inside it. So yeah, pretty much fun. So yeah, we're going to start ahead, go with every single hero, and go through different facts. So first of all, we have Doomfist. Doomfist, in playstyle wise, he is getting a buff from movement speed during his ult from 150% increase to a 200% increase. I need to turn off my fan. That might be causing a problem. But yeah, so it'd be a 200% increase, and then he gets the barriers he gets from doing this went from 30 to 35 per hit, which is pretty great. But besides that, some major things to actually think about him is some things is if you're meleeing, it does not cancel your reload. So you can see like it's reloading. So if you have that where you have no abilities, you can just do this constantly and then just melee, and then just interlace in a punch whenever you can if you're just that low in resources. Doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, especially if you're not used to playing Doomfist and you just kind of throw everything at once. And then besides that, you can bounce off of rounded surfaces. We did a Doomfist guide going through all the surfaces to bounce off of. But of course you can basically circle, and I think we bounced off of that surface. You can kind of increase. It's a conserve your momentum strategy, and the idea is that you jump a little bit after you rocket, and you go a little further than you should have before, and this allows you to do a lot of cooler stuff. For example, you can basically launch yourself across first point Gibraltar just by the right click. It's pretty insane. Pretty nice too. And so yeah, we've covered that in our Doomfist guide. I suggest going to check that out. Very, very intricate and all of that, but a lot of people don't know the whole conserving momentum, and it happens a lot. You have it with Mercy, and you have it with Widowmaker with their Guardian Angels, and of course Grapple Hook respectively. But the main strategy behind this, because it's hard to actually hit the spacebar in time and timing it just right. So if you actually bind jump to your mouse wheel, which I'm spinning right now, everything's all great. And I need to move my hello. I need to move my microphone. That's perfect. Had it in the wrong spot. Sorry. But yeah. So let's move it again. But yeah, if you actually notice, that's pretty much regular distance. But if we jump a little bit right after, and it's pretty much like right after, boom, we end up going pretty far. And then, of course, we hit rounded surfaces, we launch in the air, and it's a whole conserved momentum. So yeah, that's all the stuff with Doomfist of little-known facts. Some people might know that, but, you know, never know. Another thing is animation cancel with Genji. So you can do, like, right-click combos to just basically one-shot, which is pretty nice. Yeah, just constantly do that. And then you can, of course, cancel your... it's a lot of animation cancels, and for some fun things, whoa, I had a lag spike. Okay, so if you dash into the air, you can double jump and stick in the air a little bit longer, and this allows you to pick targets when you're ulting. So remember, if you ult, you get your cooldown back, which is pretty nice. And basically the idea is you launch yourself in the air with your regular, and then you ult, and then you pick your target and go towards it. And that's if you're thinking you're going to get nano boosted. And it's also a good way to figure out what target you're actually going to go towards. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Better players won't do that if they don't have an Ana. Otherwise you would. It's just a whole target acquisition thing. Oh, my eyes are just burning. Holy crap. But yeah, so that's all the stuff with Genji. And then also you can intersperse your right click into stuff. So you can right click and then deflect, right click, dash, and basically a common thing that was a thing way back when was you would have a graviton surge, and so you would dash, turn, right click, dash, turn, right click. A lot of people just think it was just a dash constantly across the graviton surge to get that chain of damage. So you just dash, turn around quick, and just keep going. But it intersperses right click in between each time because it can be used pretty much wherever. So yeah, like, see, you can just like pretty much do it instantly, and then you can do all that kind of stuff. So a lot of animation cancel with Genji. Other things is that you do not win the battle on Doomfist Punch, and you don't win the battle on Reinhardt Charge or Baguette Stun. So deflect doesn't work there. Other things is there's an animation cancel with McCree. Oh, I missed it. But basically, if you do it just right, you can actually cancel your animation to reload with your flashbang. So let me see. Yeah. So it's just the very end of the animation that you can cancel. Pretty slick. And then also you get all of your ammo back when you ult. So if you need to, you can use it to instantly reload you, and it's pretty sweet there. So like, let me see, boom. And then we're back into it. I should have probably ended that early, but you know, whatever. And then another thing, which is actually pretty big, is you can one-shot a Riptire by doing that. Just shooting and then flashbanging, because it does enough damage that it one-shots it. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that's pretty big with Riptire, and 100% worth it. Another thing is you can do a super bounce with Pharah, where you shoot the ground and you boost at the same time, and you pretty much hit you can touch the skybox when you do it. It's pretty cool. You do, of course, damage yourself, but you go pretty high. And it's pretty good when you have a Mercy with you and you're doing Far Mercy. It's pretty slick. The other thing is you can conserve your fuel if you just tap a little bit. Not all of it, but you can tap a little bit. Pretty sweet stuff. And then also, I have the Concussion Blast on right click, just for people to know. Oh, and the big thing, and let's see if I can do it. Oh, I'm being I'm like doing it too cocky. Or I should just burn through. I'm trying to get my ult real quick and I'll show you guys. There we go. Okay, so you actually get the most out of your ultimate the closer you are. So let's see if I can do this. So you can see like all the damage I've done. Let me go get healing because I've of course damaged myself. And it's also bad that I'm like 100 ping at the moment. It's kind of a bummer. But yeah, let's go ahead and charge ult. And I'll show you contrast. And in some cases, you can literally obliterate people with your ult. Let's see. Come on. Okay. So let's say I'm really far away. Let's get really up here. Okay, well, the main idea is you have a little bit of a bloom to your rocket, and so it takes a little longer to kill a target the farther away you are, just because you hit less rockets. But the closer you are, the better, and then it also allows you to drop out of the sky like this, boom, and then you ult, which is pretty nice. That example was a little bad, and I think it's because the hitbox on those guys are a little bit big. But it does work. Reaper, basically you can animation cancel your reload. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. It's a melee after he drops his guns, but it technically does not increase your reload. Basically what it does is it allows you to melee in between your reload, but it is the same exact time. So you're not increasing. It's the same exact interval. The only thing it does give you is it also gives you the ability to melee in between, which is pretty nice. And then the other thing is this instantly reloads you as well as finishing out your ult. So just a ton of reloads, which are pretty nice. Is there any other stuff? Oh, armor when your shotgun. So little known fact is people say that Reaper is a tank shredder. Yes and no. Yes, he can tear through a ton of health with a big hitbox. The other thing is you can see his pellets. Each pellet does a certain amount of damage, combining to a total. Same thing with Roadhog. Well, armor decreases each pellet's damage overall. And so you end up getting a stack of a ton of damage lost. So against armor, shotguns aren't too good. Let's see, soldier. He has a bloom on him, and it's pretty big. He does have a higher DPS than McCree, but he in some cases is not as good as McCree because he doesn't have a high burst damage to kill targets that well. So it's kind of difficult for him. Some things to keep into account is, and I'll show you. See how the bloom's getting bigger? Now watch this. So if you burst it, the more accurate you are, which is pretty nice. Also, your ultimate has you get your basically reloads you faster, which is pretty sweet. Really sweet, actually. Basically, and it was kind of like the joke way back when. Little known fact is that the Dallas Fuel player, who pretty much is playing Mercy at the moment, was their Lucio main. He was the best soldier in the world at one point. Kind of ironic, and it's because his tracking is just so good. That's also another fun fact. Pretty much fun facts all day. But the thing is they would joke of these pro players, and especially him, would basically only use tac visor so that they would reload faster. And that they could just go full auto without having to burst. But yeah, so that's all the stuff with Soldier. And not too bad. Also, your biotic field can get deflected by Genji, so watch out for that. Let's see what else. Sombra. Okay, so there's a couple things with Sombra. First of all is your EMP sometimes rotates you. That's a bug at the moment, and I know they said they fixed it, but I've actually had it happen to me quite recently. So yeah, I think it's still out there at the moment. Other things is that you can hack as you're falling, so it is very very decent for you. Let's see if I want to do it. I'm gonna wait for him to come out. Okay, you can do this, and you can do that. The best way to do this is to hack Pharah midair, and you can pretty much do it every time. It is very consistent. The only times that you can is if the Pharah literally shoots you out of the sky, which is very difficult for her to do. And pretty much in that case, it's either just her being super good and or getting very, very lucky. Most likely it's luck, just because that kind of stuff's hard, especially when it's just this. And it's very difficult to do that. Other things is that you can translocate and then teleport to the translocator and go invisible. And what it does is it actually hides the trail of your translocator, so it's actually hard to figure out where the translocator is. And other things is there's some characters that you should or shouldn't hack. Mainly make sure you EMP the Zen, but never hack him otherwise, unless you know he has his ult. Then go ahead and hack him, especially if your team's gonna do like a cool wombo combo. Do that to stop his ult. Otherwise, the Zen will just be laughing at you as you try to hack him. What others for hacking Genji? Pharah's prime hack her first, and then after that hack Bastion. And then as you go down the line, Reinhardt and Mercy are next, and then the rest just kind of go with themselves. Lucio's pretty decent, not too bad. Hanzo's not too bad. But yeah, the main Doomfist, of course, is pretty good. But yeah, the main ones are Pharah, and then Bastion, and then Reinhardt, and then Genji, and then Mercy. So all of that are basically your main hack targets. She's basically, you go for threat targets as well. Pretty quick and simple. Tracer has a couple things. First of all is you can animation cancel your melee by meleeing before you dash. So you would think you'd melee and do this, but in fact you do this. And basically what happens is you actually melee before, and so it happens through it. And then you could do this. I messed it up. Let's see. But basically what I'm trying to get at is you can melee as you use your E ability, and you basically animation cancel your E ability as well. Well, you animation cancel your melee there as well. So let's see if I can do it. Yep, see. Didn't get an animation or anything like that. Other things is that a good way to hit your pulse bombs. I messed that up. Is trying to basically get a feel of where the target's at. And then you could do I kind of flick aim it where I get really close to the target, and then I rotate and kind of lead into them. Sometimes they'll be going in a direction, and I'll actually just lead into their direction. Of course, I missed that one because I'm a noob. Oh, I just tossed my mouse. Oh, rip the dream. The dream has been ripped. Gosh, okay. I'm just going to go ahead and stop trying that because I'm going to ruin my day. It's been a while since I've played Tracer anyway, so here we go. Bastion, you do have pretty good DPS just left-clicking. People forget that. And in many cases, some good things to do is, so like people say not to get on carts or anything like that, but it's good if you don't want to get earth shattered. If you're standing on top of a cart, you actually don't get earth shattered because it doesn't climb up, depending on the cart and depending on how high you are up. But trying to get, I think it's a meter or 3 meters up. I can't remember exactly the term, but make sure you're up a substantial amount to get out of the range of the Reinhardt earth shatter. And if you want, I suggest grabbing a friend and going to test this if you want to. Otherwise, there's not a lot of stuff with Bastions. But the big thing is being inconsistent. You're always wanting to be in certain spaces. Another thing, and this is pretty big, this is probably the biggest tip with Bastion of misnomers and stuff, is that his turret form does more DPS than his tank form. But his tank form does more burst damage. So if you want to do a good amount of damage and basically instant kill someone, that's the better route. And of course you're mobile. But if you're trying to take out a shield, don't even. And in a lot of cases, healing can't keep up. So don't even worry about having to deal with that burst. Just worry about if they have like the transcendence, then you can ult. Because you do 200 instant, which is pretty nice. Hanzo, you can charge your bow before you wall climb, and you keep wall climbed after. See? Comes immediately back. Other things. Use sonar arrow off of cooldown because you can just toss it around, toss it into places that will be pretty much nice to you. And then let me see what else. What else? Oh, here's a good one. He's really good against Widow. Some people think that since Widow's hit scan, she has a better time going after the Hanzo. Well, actually, Hanzo can peek the target and then step back, whereas the Widow has to wait for him to match up with her peeking, and things get a little weird. Not too bad. Let's see. Misnomers about Junkrat. There's not a lot of misnomers about Junkrat, actually, off the top of my head. I do know that you can get trapped midair, and this is from personal experience. I have been trapped midair before. It might have been a bug and they might have fixed it, but it's happened to me before. I actually think it's still a thing now. Trying to figure out what else. You can wall climb with his ult. Oh, and it makes less sound I think it makes less sound, or to the point of where no one can hear it. Let me see. If you have it just on a wall. So you can see how it's quieter. But it makes sound when you move. So you can actually trick people to think that it's basically not anywhere. And freak people out for the set amount of time. Pretty nice. Let's see. trying to figure out what's up with May, if anything cool with May. Anna's Nano Nade does not stop her self-heal during the cryo freeze. There's that one. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, so you see how there's 5 main pillars? Those are 5 points, and they can actually be damaged separately and be bore through. So if you are a Bastion and a Mei walls you off, just keep drilling. Because I can't remember what health they have, but I think they have like, 1,000 each or something like that. Which Bastion can burn through. It's not too bad. Ult's pretty same. Nothing too different. Torbjorn. Trying to remember anything about Torbjorn. I think he's pretty bland. Some possible fun facts with him is his origin, because they're talking about reworking him. There are some things that they used to do. I know that they had it set up, I think almost an open beta or even close to that, where you had, I think it was closed beta, where his turrets took armor scraps it took scrap to build. So for you to upgrade your turrets and stuff, you needed to collect scrap, and it could only be collected by getting kills. And then they added the passive scrap, and then they also removed that feature a little bit later, all that kind of stuff. So you could only upgrade with scrap. And the 3rd level was already apart, and it actually shot rockets out instead of just shooting regularly. And so that was kind of like an OP thing where he could just basically, if he got enough scrap, he could build it without his ultimate. So yeah, fun history fact there. Just mainly because there's not a lot of fun facts with him. Widowmaker. I think similar with Widowmaker and Hanzo's, you can actually one-shot body shot a Tracer if you full charge shot and then follow it up with a melee. Pretty nice there. Other stuff is, don't worry if you get some of your grapples wrong with Widowmaker, because it is known to be very buggy. So do not worry. I think, and I wish I had like the clip on hand. I can't remember, but Soon was playing, and it was on King's Row. It was very recent, and basically he had just completely botched a ton of his hooks, and it's just because sometimes you get stuck, so you try to go up. That exactly that. So yeah, that will happen, and it'll kind of make you mad. So it's kind of good to cancel your climb to just kind of go up a little further, which is pretty nice. Also, if I am right, yeah. So your primary fire has no damage fall off, but it has a spread. So if you want to do just a tiny bit of damage, do that instead of trying to. So like if I did this, so if I tried to do that and then I was trying to get a headshot or something like that to just tickle him with this, I actually should do this because it basically does the same thing. Let me try to... Nope. Come on. Come on, let's bore you down. Yeah. Yeah, because I could kill him like that, but it's actually just better to do this. Also, it's... Staying in scope is not always the best thing, especially if you need to be more aware, because you want to actually look around a lot more. So you see how I'm popping in and out, and that's just because I want to look around in between, which is a lot nicer. Diva. Okay. Diva's bomb gets blocked by every single shield. I don't think that's much of a fun fact. You can melee to stop your movement, and it does bonus damage added. So you can do this. You can shoot. You can do whatever you want, and then kind of burst them down. Pretty nice. You can still knock people off of cliffs, which is good. You have decent amount of armor, which is also good. You can get a healing stat as Diva, and it's because I think it's Blizzard fixing a bug where when you get demech'd, it considers it, because if you actually notice, when someone gets demech'd, their health jumps up a little bit, and it's because they're spawning in Diva and giving her the baby Diva and giving her basically her health, and so sometimes it considers it as an actual increase. Kind of weird there. Yeah, pretty decent. Oh, and her original ultimate was a giant Winston bubble that and I think there's a spray or something like that that pays homage to it. Next thing is, so Orissa's barrier does not deploy until it hits the ground, and then it has 20 seconds where it stays. So you can do this and just kind of sit around, and your cooldown will keep going. Boom, it just activated. But this is only if you are thinking you're going to get stuck on the 20 seconds. So I could be shooting here, and this thing can be whittling down, and then it just replaces itself, which is pretty nice. Other thing is Halt had a bug, which was fixed, so that's out of the picture. And they have buffed Orisa quite recently, making it so that her ult charge rate is a little bit higher. What's fun is that her ult basically gives an increase damage percentage, which actually translate to an increase of ult charge gain. So some people say her ult's pretty bad, but it's actually pretty good, mainly just because it boosts other ultimates. So it's like an ultimate receiver, stuff like that. So it's pretty nice. And also Fortify pretty much blocks everything, but it doesn't block through you. Also, the other thing, and I pretty much say this every single time Orissa's around, is you do not have to put the barrier in front of you. You can put it anywhere. For those that don't understand that, go ahead and look at my Orisa guide, or even try to come up with the answer yourself. Kind of fun that way. There's a few things with Reinhardt that's kind of entertaining. You can cancel your hammer animation by using E or charge. Basically, what happens is you can watch it. He swings his hammer and it goes across him. But you notice we get a hit marker, boom, in the center. So you can cancel the rest of the animation by pulling up your barrier, which is nice. Same thing goes with Brigitte, and it's pretty nice there. Also, his charge, in a lot of cases, the pros consider it to be almost the worst ability in the game. Even worse than Reaper's teleport, which I don't consider. I think is not that good. And another thing is, so let's say Roadhog is using whole hog on you, and you have your barrier out. You can actually kite his whole hog, because what it does is it's a cone. It shoots in a cone of 5 different sections, very similar to how Maze Wall works. And so it's basically 5 shotgun shots spread out in a cone. And so what happens is the closer you are, the more damage it does to the barrier. And it does a ton of damage. Like, I think even more than Zenyatta can heal. I think you have to have a few Zenyatas to actually out-heal it. But what happens is if you jump and then you let go and you just kind of flash midair, what happens is you actually knock yourself back and you kite yourself away from the damage, because then it spreads out enough. It has no fall off, but it spreads out enough that you can block the rest of your barrier. And this is if, of course, you're not next to a cliff and in danger, but this is kind of like a controlled way to leave a whole hog, which is pretty nice. Another thing is never have your barrier drop to 0, because then it takes it longer to charge back up, and it allows you to block other stuff around you. Pretty nice. The other thing is if you block, or if someone else blocks Reinhardt's Earth Shatter with a barrier, and then the barrier drops, there's a second after Earth Shatter hits, anyone can get knocked over. And so what that means is if you block it and immediately drop your barrier, you will get affected by Earth Shatter. So whenever you block it, just hold on to it. Because I was actually reminded this. I was looking at a clip from a friend, and basically what had happened was the Reinhardt had his barrier up, and basically split second dropped it right after the Earth Shatter, and basically knocked everyone down behind him. And except my friend, who was very confused, he's like, I thought he blocked the Earth Shatter, and then suddenly everyone else dropped. Why didn't I drop? And I went, oh, well, that's because the whole Earth Shatter was still active, because it's still active for a second. So make sure that you keep that up. That's one of the big ones that people just don't really hear about, and you don't really hear about at all. You won't see that on like a YouTube channel or anything like that often. Let me see. Technically, Roadhog has the ability to deal over 200 damage to a single target in one shot. And this means that at any point, the random spread can suddenly hit you and kill you in one shot. So that's fun. And I think there's a small percentage of a chance that if he hook combos you, you will die. And it depends a lot on your hitbox, and of course your health. But there's a small percentage of chance that he'll kill a full health target with the hook combo without anyone's help. So yeah, that's fun. I always get one shot. I have bad luck, and this is why I know this, because I actually had to look it up, and I went, "Are you kidding me? Why is this a thing?" Ooh, let's go ahead and show the ult. See, 5 little shotgun shots. There you go. There you go. Winston. We've covered some of these in a recent strat chat, but I'll go over them again. When you use the E ability to put down your barrier, there's an animation where he pulls his hand and drops it down. You actually drop the bubble immediately as you hit E, so you can use it very reactionary. You do not have to worry about timing it, and I'll show you. Boom. See? From our calculations, I should have dropped it here, but it dropped back there, and that's because it drops immediately as I hit E. Another thing we can do is do this. I hit them at the same time. We should have put it on top of that bridge, but nope, it's back there. So do not think of the animation if you're having problems on figuring that out completely. I suggest when you use E to not look at Winston and actually look around to other stuff. So, and that's what you should be doing overall, is you basically hit E and then you're looking around to figure out other stuff. You're not looking at the animation and trying to time it, because then that's just disgusting. You don't do that with anyone, especially with the animation and stuff. Especially as well, because you have to know the animation before you press a button to time it. If you're watching it, it's just making it worse. Oh, I forgot. Another thing is, as you land, there is a burst around him that does damage, and it actually has damage fall off, which is pretty entertaining. Another thing is that if you melee, before you hit the ground, you actually cancel the melee. You have to do it as you hit, so up, and I'll show you, and melee. And you actually do more damage because of it, especially since melee is an AoE. I'll actually show that as well. But yeah, you do more damage, and it's for free. You don't need to do it. Also, you do the same amount of damage weaving in your melees to your regular primary fire. But your primary fire can actually hit multiple targets at once, so keep that in mind as well. It chains to people. Technically, melee hits multiple targets, but it chains to people. Now I'll actually show that. So let's go over here. So yeah, you can see how it's chaining. So you can do that, and it's pretty sweet. But yeah, this actually saves you ammo, which is pretty nice. And melee does more burst damage than your primary fire. So what you want to do is use it against armor, and you'll win the Winston v. Winston fights. So some pretty nice stuff. But the main way to do this is just constantly press melee. Not hold it, but press it. and you just hold down your primary fire, and it'll weave it in the middle, and so it'll just kind of average out. Other thing is that when you ult, it refreshes your jump cooldown, and at the end of your ult, it'll refresh your jump cooldown. So I'll show you. So you can do stuff like that, where you basically super launch, and so we're basically gonna launch at the last second, and then be able to do another super jump. Boom. We did another super jump. Ta-da! Let's do the melee cancel thing. I should have jumped all the way over here. Actually, no, not the melee cancel. The AoE stuff. So I'm going to face in this direction. You see? We are not doing damage to that guy. But if I do this. So it's active for a half a second, and it's an AoE. And if anyone is in your range, they get damaged, and you can damage multiple people. Fun stuff. Like I said as well, some of you might know this stuff, but a lot of people I bet don't. So this is where things are beneficial. And if you don't know this stuff, don't worry. This is just very intricate stuff that's stupidly intricate. Next thing is, of course, Zarya. Some general tips that people don't really know about is make sure that you're bubbling targets that are about to die. Or there's the other thing of getting charge, and you can do that whatever way, shape, or form. But the thing is also maximizing. So if you have 95% charge on your primary, and you'll see the charge on it and stuff like that by taking damage, do not try to use your bubble to continue that charge. Use it to save people, and otherwise you're just wasting the bubble and you're not getting much value out of it. But yeah, there's that kind of stuff. Also, shield. Basically, if you get any armor, like if Brigitte ults, your armor will go underneath your shields, and so it's actually higher value because you'll keep it for longer if you take poke damage. Next thing is you actually, so your right click does a burst and knocks people back, so you can do the right click primary fire, and that's pretty standard. But did you know that you get more value out of right-clicking big groups? And that's how the pros charge their ults very fast. Is they use her right-click because it's an AoE burst to hit multiple targets, and that gives them more ult charge because they're doing more damage across the board. So that's how they get Graviton Surge. Ooh, should I look into Graviton Surge a lot more? Is there any fun facts about Grav? Nah, not really too interested in any of those. Okay. Ana, you can quickscope. So basically what this is you right click and then flick and then you kind of drop it down. And this will allow you, because what happens is, and I'll show you, you see my movement speed? Drastically drops. And that's a hazard if someone's trying to shoot you, because it means you're easier to hit. And so you want to basically quick scope so that you can move the same speed. Pretty nice, pretty snazzy. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, so her gun is basically hit scan in scope, but projectile on hip fire, which is something to remember. And the big thing to remember is if you're doing something like this and you're trying to heal this guy, if you do this, oh, and you also shoot through targets that are full health. Let's try this. So if I'm doing this, they see, and pardon the term, but an actual tracer trail. They will see that streak, very similar to how you'll see a widow streak. But if you're doing this, they actually don't see the projectile. You can barely see the projectile, so it's just safer. And then another thing is melee looks a lot like sleep dart. So watch. This is very similar. You see an arm lift up. And against people like Winston or stuff like that that try to, or even a Genji, they can't react. They might actually overreact to that ability, and kind of freak them out a little bit. Oh, also, let's go back to Tracer real quick. Some people say that you can dash across people and then dash back, and what it does is force that they end up turning around and trying to flashbang, like if they're McCree or whatever, and you end up tricking them out. that doesn't always work because you're not always in a rank where they will actually turn around, and then you're also not always in the rank where they will fall for that. So be mindful, and my suggestion is try to not be fancy to start out with, and then if they do, then try to be fancy, and just kind of have this weird like mind war about it, kind of like the whole thing of if you do this and I would have done it before. Like if you stole the very expensive priceless egg, then I would have went to someone else, found out the first position of it and stolen it before you could have, and put it in a fake. And then it was like, well, I would have gone in and made that one a fake, and then you keep going down the line to the point of where it gets absurd. You can do that as Tracer. It's kind of fun. Baguette. It's little known. So it is little known that you can do a one-shot combo to Tracer. It's 160 damage. And the idea is very similar to the melee cancel, where you basically cancel your melee with a shield or whatever. But what this is you shield bash, and you do that. It's 160, and you do it all in once. After you hit, you finish it off with shift. So let's do this. Boom. What's very unknown is that same combo is actually can be done as a 190 burst. Because what happens, let's see if I can do it. I can't do it. But basically you put a melee and then you cancel the melee animation with your shield. And then you do the combo. So you end up getting an extra melee in, which is pretty nice. Yeah, that's it. He was already partial health, but you kind of get the idea. So yeah, that's a 190 burst. I suggest not doing it on Tracers, mainly just because it's overkill, and the whole fact that if she's smart enough, that first melee hit she can actually run away from, which is not that good. And then also, if you hold down E, you'll constantly send out, I believe, your ability. Let me double check. Yep. So if you hold down the E key, you'll constantly send it out whenever you get a target if you just want to spam it out. Also, you cannot get one-shot headshot by a Hanzo or Widowmaker because you have that extra armor. Basically, it would do 250 damage, but instead it does 245 because you have that extra armor on top that takes off the edge. Things with Lucio is that you can one-shot as Lucio, and people don't know that. Also, the thing is, and it used to be this thing of whole ammo like saving, but now that they remove the ammo aspect to his right click, it just doesn't matter. And so you can just use it wherever, but you do a 25 damage, but in a burst. So it's very similar to Zarya. The more people, the higher ult charge you get, but the one-shot combo is pretty much this. Oh, he jumped over me. I need to be more conscious. You actually have to look up sometimes. There we go. But it's pretty much a one-shot combo. Pretty nice and easy. I do understand that this is actually going pretty long, and we still have stuff to cover. Let's go a little faster. Mercy. Mercy doesn't really have that much as a little knower, except you can change the stuff for her abilities. One thing that I like to do is doing the prefer beam target, not only for Pharmacy, but what happens is you need line of sight to Guardian Angel, but if you have the preferred beam target, you can do this. Well, okay, of course. That was kind of crap. But yeah, you can, in some cases, yeah, you can go around walls and stuff like that sometimes, but you can get stuck behind stuff, which is pretty trash, of course. And then also, technically, she does more damage with her pistol than her damage boost can do if you hit all your shots. So theoretically, the pistol is better than damage boosting a target in some cases. Some cases it's not, but also ill-advised to use your pistol unless absolutely needed. Moira can launch herself in the air, and let's see if I can do it. Yeah. So if you basically fade and hit and hit space on rounded surfaces, very similar to Doomfist. You launch yourself in the air. Pretty nice. Also, for your orbs, try to keep them level, because what happens is if you angle them, I'll show you. Okay, that doesn't help. But they start bouncing in vertical, and they can end up flying up into the air and out. But if you have them all horizontal, then all they do is bounce around the horizontal plane, and you have a lot better to deal with that. The other thing, and I think it dates back to the first Strat Chat where I mentioned this, and now people are actually using my same, is geometrically, if you take a triangle, the two short sides of a triangle added together is longer than the hypotenuse of the triangle, which is the longest side. And the main reason why I say that is because you want to do this, where you bounce around targets. You can see as well, I bounced it down and now it's going out. But you want to bounce it around targets so let's say if I shot it straight, it would go this route. Boom, that distance. But it is longer for it to do this. And it's just because of just geometry in general, is this distance added together is longer than this distance, and so everything's great. I gotta reply to Chris. So yeah, suggested is make sure you bounce to targets rather than just throwing straight to targets, and it's better. Symmetra, screw Symmetra. I don't know. She's terrible. I don't care. Let's do a talk about countering Symmetra. Symmetra, of course, has a range. If you do damage to her, sucks to suck. If you have good accuracy, you can just kill her faster than she can kill you because it's a long kind of setup. Another thing is with her turrets, they are so low health that if you get anyone, like a Winston or anything like that, to just run over and spaz out here, you'll just eliminate it. Or if a Reinhardt has a shield right here, you can actually hit the shield and hit these. So like if he has them, like, I don't know, if this bridge was lower and the turrets were up here, like Eichenwald, you can get the Eichenwald stuff by hitting them on the shield. Not little known, but I don't care about the character that much. Maybe when she gets buffed, it's better. You can, let's see if I can. So you can animation cancel your Discord orb by pressing the Discord key and shooting at the same time. And basically what it does is you basically shoot them at the same time and you do the damage that you would have done. Boom. Ta-da. Pretty simple. Other things is you can block stuff with your ultimate. Oh, and other things. So ultimates like Lucio and Zenyatta. I'm not sure about Brigitte. I have to check that. I actually didn't test that. They get blocked by barriers. So if there's like a Winston bubble, try to bounce in between the two. And what it does is it helps get your entire team. But don't just stand on one side. Otherwise, if your team's on the other, they won't get any healing whatsoever. And then I think also with Baguette, her healing range with her passive is very long. So don't worry about being near people. It's not like Lucio's range. Other things with Zenyatta is when people do the right click, they tend to just aim straight and hope that they just stop moving. What you actually want to do is you want to track them. And basically the idea is for like hit scans, they track by going through and just following the head and all that kind of stuff. But with projectiles, you lead based off of your travel speed. And so basically you just continue out through the entire motion to have more of the orbs hit, which is pretty nice. And then also, if you do a Discord shot on a tracer and melee her, that is a one-shot. It's just fun facts. That's if you get a headshot. You have to get a headshot there, otherwise it doesn't. So yeah, that's all with characters. I think I'm going to start and go ahead with questions as we go into different strategies. Let's go ahead and go into poke battles. What is a poke battle? So I actually was surprised to hear that not a lot of people do know what a poke battle is. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm not that surprised. It is a very old style that originated in Deathball, and the main idea was that a team would put down a bubble, or it was usually Reinhardt's shield because Orisa wasn't out. And what you try to do is you try to burn the other barrier before they burned yours, and then the barrier that dropped, like let's say mine dropped, they would tend to lose. But then teams started trying to figure out other ways to drop a barrier faster, and then you end up getting flashbangs, and you get Doomfist punches, and you get EMPs and hacks and all that stuff to disrupt the Reinhardt, and that's what pretty much wins games. And so that whole idea kind of went out the window in the popular sense, but it's still used today. A lot of people will actually use it for like Widow comps or stuff like that, or the better one, and this is where dive kind of became a little overstated of what it could do, and the main reason why is because dive can't do poke battles with deathball comps, because you have this big barrier that can take a lot of damage and can either be refreshed like Orisa's or stuff like that. And what would happen is you had a lot better firepower in like Junkrat or Soldier and stuff like that than a Genji and Tracer. And so what would happen is you would burn down them instead of their shields, because all they have is a Winston bubble in a lot of cases, and they can't do that to you. And so they would end up just completely getting destroyed unless they engaged on you. And basically how a dive versus deathball worked would be that the dive would have basically a timer on them. And if they took too long, they would get whittled down faster than they could actually commit into a fight. And so they would force fights, and in a lot of cases it would work, and that's where people would say that dive was better than death balls, because they had to be aggressive, and they had that issue of taking those poke battles, but it wasn't that bad. Right now, I really like them against a Hanzo or Widowmaker, especially if you have your own, because you can put the barrier in between the two, and basically the team that has the barrier ends up winning that Widow v Widow fight or whatever. So I like that. Shield battles, same thing. Dive comps, misnomer about dive comps is that you just jump in. You jump in, you figure out, you hit whatever you do, and it's just being mobile. That's not exactly correct. You hit targets that you can kill. And so you basically jump on the Zen or whatever. You hit those killable targets, which is better for you. And that's really the main thing with dive and what people don't really understand with it. And then there's a defensive part to dive called counter dive, which is pretty good. NYXL was really good at it. And the idea was that you would dive after their dive, and you exploit their sloppiness and dive. In a lot of cases, dive, especially when it was first done, is made to exploit the mistakes of a team. But the better a team is, the less value a dive can actually bring out, besides having to force the dive. Let's see, and I think that's what they're having a problem into now, is they can't force the dive into a Brigitte. Deathball. Deathball does not have to be slow. So the thing about Lucio that people forget is that his speed boost is really fast, and technically, and a good example is if you actually look at any of the Hanamura attacks that have been played recently, popularized by actually Dallas Fuel, is they will play a Lucio and just charge through. They don't care. They just get straight to the point, and they just move on with their lives. And so the idea is that is called a rushdown comp, where they're a very mobile deathball because of the Lucio added to them. And so what happens is, and this is pretty much what people think of deathball right now, is this Lucio boosting people around, but it's actually considered a rushdown comp because you're more of a juggernaut, because a lot of the times in a dive they're more frail and they have to be a little more explosive, but the death ball is like throwing a giant boulder at people, and in some cases can basically run like a dive, exactly like a dive, but the whole thing is your team's just a little more dependent on the Lucio. And now that leads me into the next thing is, what is the current problem with dive at the moment? Oh, well, it's the whole fact that teams have to they have to be more mindful because they can't use their abilities to engage, because then they're just going to get destroyed. They have to engage and then use their abilities to get out. Well, that is where I actually suggest Lucio coming in, because Lucio was originally in a dive comp because he made them more mobile. He can be pulled back in because he makes them mobile again. You just kind of win that battle of attrition there. I like it, and technically, with Lucio himself, is that people don't think he can be a part of a dive, or that he can get on the high ground. And as you can see, you can easily get on the high ground. It doesn't matter. See, like, watch. Boom, high ground. Boom, high ground. It doesn't matter. Basically, if you don't think a Lucio can get on the high ground, get a better Lucio to play with you. Or teach the Lucio to actually do this stuff. And basically, Lucios that get a lot of play time into Lucio, or basically know Lucio really well, the better their movement abilities are, their movement keys, and of course the higher they can get in the less amount of time. So a lot of people, it's basically, there's like a time trial, and the more familiar people are with Lucio, the faster they can do it. So yeah. But yeah, you have to pick right spots, or else you end up kind of screwing yourself over. But yeah, you need to know that. And so it's pretty nice doing all that stuff. And it's really just being mobile. And then, let's move on. Target calling. People think that target calling is only for dive. No, it's not. Target calling is necessary in dive. In other comps, death ball and all that stuff, you don't need target calling, but you still get a lot of benefits out of it. That's why I said the whole mentality that people have around dive, where it's you engage when you want, and you pick targets, and you basically kill one and overwhelm them and then continue on. Every comp does that. It's just people don't really talk about it that much, and every comp can do that. They pick when they engage as an offense or a defense, because you can just hide behind a barrier or wait for Lucio speed boost and engage on them. It's not like you're stuck doing nothing. It's kind of weird. But yeah, basically other comps have a lot more versatility than you think when it comes to actually playing Overwatch. You don't need to be playing dive to do everything. Basically, the only difference between dive and death ball is that dive is, in some cases, a lot more spread out, but not that much. And then in some cases, death ball is not even a true death ball anymore. It's more, it can be spread out. It's just a standard 2-2-2 comp. But dive is just basically you're playing more mobile heroes, and that's pretty much it. It's just adding mobility to your team roster, and that's it. There's nothing else fancier than that. And you have a little more possibilities for a disengaged sense. Lucio's Amp It Up basically has a fairly long cooldown of, like, I think 12 seconds. Yeah. Whereas 6 seconds for Winston to jump back. That's pretty much it with that. And I think for that, I believe that's going to be the end of it. This was, I think, an hour long, so not too bad. Wait, actually, that's live. Yeah, recording's been on for an hour and 4 minutes. So yeah, I'm gonna basically sit here for a little bit if you have any questions. But yeah, so if you are on YouTube, go ahead and ask some questions. If you're on Twitch, ask questions. And I do suggest subscribing to YouTube to get information there and stuff like that. And if you want to just focus everything to one instead of following and subscribing to a bunch of them, I suggest actually going and just following me on Twitter, because I also do follow other stuff and like some funny memes and stuff like that. And then I, of course, do my own and post some updates. I haven't been active too much lately, and that's because I've really just hit a writer's block. And I know I don't get a lot of viewers. And so I'm trying to figure out different ways that I can do what I want to do and just actually get more out of it. Because at the moment, I've been pretty much uploading YouTube daily for the past month, and I have lost 4 subscribers in that. So it pretty much makes no sense. Not a lot getting out of there. I know I'm getting better, and I'm trying to get better. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, go ahead and put those in the comments if you're on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I need to figure out what I want to do, and that's why I'm probably going to try doing more Twitch stuff to see if that works out a little better. Because I think everyone knows that YouTube's like in a dying state, where if people it's at the point where if people got tired of it, basically, if YouTube made it difficult for the viewer to the point of where they didn't want to actually be there, then that's when YouTube's dead, especially if there's other platforms for that stuff to go to. Very similar to how TV has become, where there's people don't get a lot of benefits for watching TV, and in a lot of cases they don't have anything they want to watch, and so they end up doing other stuff instead, which is pretty sad. So yeah, I think that's going to be it. But yeah, if you have any questions or stuff like that, put in the comments section. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff if you're on YouTube. And thank you for being here for the live stream on Twitch. It's been fun. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next week for Strat Chat, but I'll be posting more information on that. I'll be using Twitter a lot more, at Dryden 001, but instead of the E in Dryden, it's a 3. So DRYD3N001, and then you can basically follow me there and get more information. So thank you for watching, and bye!